Hi, this is Cindy Fisher, and this is my video for Module 3. I titled it Conceptual Frameworks as the Template Has Frames, but I'll start by speaking about what stood out to me from the focus group interview of students who are Latino fathers. So the biggest thing that stood out to me was the similarities or the overlap. These 6 men have come to the US for a better life. There has been no work in their home countries, and they've been able to see improved work communications at their current work here in the US due to their ESL classes. There were also some insights from participants that stood out to me. For one student, there was the nuance of language. The word opinion versus experience was of interest because either one would apply to the to the question, and he was kind of thinking about, do you want to know my opinion or do you want to know my experience? um, and the next was not learning fast enough. For several students, they realized that it's never too late to learn. Um, for another one, they could see the value of ESL, for example, when paying bills or when shopping or that kind of thing. Um, for another student with an ESL waiting list, because the school there has a waiting list for students. So if you don't go to class, someone else will go in your place. And that was kind of a realization. And that's actually a difference because our program doesn't have a waiting list for most classes. Another thing was the identity of one student. He identified himself as a student, a father, and a worker, depending on the situation. And I thought that was insightful for him. I mean, we've been reading about that type of thing, situational, um, where things would be relevant to certain situations. But for the student to say that was pretty interesting to me. Another was one student reviews his class notes the next day, and another one said he learns a little each day. And I saw that as students using their inner persistence, their inner self to keep going there and moving little by little incrementally. For another student, he said that my son changed my life. And for someone else, said they were doing it for the kids, studying, coming to the U.S., that kind of thing, working. That they were kind of a change agent. They were driving the change, helping their kids and their family. And another spoke about there may be more than 6 because some students said more than one thing here. The importance of expanding vocabulary. A few students mentioned how that was, they had increased their vocabulary through ESL and that had helped them at their work. One student said he had become less shy doing presentations and things in front of his class, and another had identified as the family's economic stability through his job. And I thought that was really insightful. He was kind of the change agent by coming here to the U.S. He's helped his family through getting work and getting better work. He's helped his family economically. So one of the conceptual frameworks I looked at was that of cultural brokering. And this is basically having somebody have the role of a mediator. This has been used in the healthcare field. And it's basically so that the doctor and the patient can find common ground through the mediator. So maybe the doctor's got some certain needs that need to be met, and same with the patient, but they just can't um, communicate. So a mediator who understands both the doctor's and the patient's jargon and that kind of thing can help to provide clarity and understanding there. It's got 3 stages. So there's the first stage is identifying that there's a communication problem. The second stage is having the mediator step in and intervene. And the third stage is outcomes, and hopefully there's resolution. Otherwise, back up and have more mediation until there is resolution. So with this, for the interviews, actually, in some spots, I thought that I was able to maybe be a bit of a cultural broker, uh, in the sense of explaining a question or that kind of thing. But actually, the ESL coordinator at that college was there during the interview and was able to interpret in Spanish. So I think that she had kind of a role of a cultural broker during the interview. Um, I think some of the students also could be considered cultural brokers themselves as they choose their words selectively or as they maybe help in the classroom. I didn't see it so much in the interview as far as helping each other out, but maybe in the classroom or with their family or with others. Many of them spoke about how one person might interpret or help out others. Um, Another conceptual framework that I looked at was that of customer loyalty. This comes from the marketing science field, and it's basically the relationship between the customer and the product or the company that produces the product. And it's basically the customer's attitude, wanting to get something again and again, and their repeat patronage. There's two things that are affecting the loyalty relationship. There are social norms and situational influences. In regard to the interview, um, I could see customer loyalty as far as ESL students dedicated, coming to class, coming because they had free classes and they could see the value and the relevance of the instruction. I also could see the social norms. I could see them feeling that they would have a better life and better work here in the U.S. I saw the social norm of the wife in one situation taking care of the children while the husband attended classes, and he said he would have a some dinner prepared when he came home afterward. I saw situational influences. Um, there was even a student who talked about how he had the role of student and a worker, um, and a father in the different situations. Um, a third conceptual framework that I looked at was that of applying principles of adult learning to presentations, which Knowles did in 1992. That's the idea of the role of the learner or the audience that's actively participating, and also the presentation process is informed greatly by the audience needs and interests, their background, and so forth. And the um, presenter is, through that interactive participation, tweaking or adjusting what he or she is doing to um, address the audience needs. I did see this in the interviews. I saw um, uh, we were doing an active participation in the interview session itself. I was trying to be sensitive to students' needs and backgrounds. I did have to keep to the protocol of the questions, but as much as I could, it was trying to use information obtained. Um, One student had spoken of how he, in his class, became a better presenter through class presentations. He became someone less shy. Other students spoke about how they were more confident now in other situations outside of class. Here are the references I used on customer loyalty, cultural brokering, and applying principles of adult learning in conference presentations.